Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, y'all. I'm a little late on this live. I know y'all was like, where is she? Oh my goodness. It's been a long day. Long, long, long day. So, hello, everybody. Okay, we got people joining on. Y'all quick. I know y'all were waiting on me. I apologize. As soon as I was preparing to get on this live, the baby had, hey Chris, how are you? Good evening. Good to see you. So, yeah, as soon as I was preparing to like jump on, the baby had an accident and then I had to like literally wash him down and get him situated. So that pushed my time back a little bit. I know some of you were like, where is she? She going live? Yes, I'm still going live. I'm here. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well, Chris. So I want to talk today about, well, hold on, let me see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody that's coming on, because I want to say hi to everybody. I want to interact. This is going to be a very interactive live, so I definitely won't be talking to myself. But yeah, this live is going to be very different from my other lives. The few lives I've done, because granted, I have not done a lot of lives. I felt called to talk about what's coming, right? So, hey, my God, sis Faith is on. Girl, ain't it your bedtime? What you doing up? Old lady. It's you need to come get your nephew. He over here getting on my nerves. But yes, this live is going to be very different than my usual lives, because I felt called to share a little bit about what's coming, right? So I want to talk about predictions for next year on a spiritual level, what's coming and what to expect, how to prepare for it. And the reason why I say this is different is because I've not gone on this platform and shared anything about my prophetic dreaming, right? Yeah, you want to see some live before you knock out. And for those of you, who may not be able to stay on this live, I actually will be posting the replay on my YouTube channel. So just to double back, double back, because I know I get on here and I talk as though you guys know who I am. So for those of you who are just like tuning in, you have no idea who I am. My name is Latoya Thurman. A lot of you know me on this platform as Crystal's Sun. I am based in Atlanta. I am a spiritualist, like a full-time spiritualist. I own a Botanica here in Atlanta. I'm an Espiritista. I'm an Olarisha. I'm a Hoodoo. But the main thing I am is a medium and a seer. So ever since I was little, ever since I was a child, I would have dreams that come true. So I have the gift of prophetic dreaming. And that is one aspect of myself that I have not really shared, at least on this platform. I used to go on my other social media, Facebook, Instagram, and do lives and talk more about like my dreams. But it has been years since I have done that, right? And when I say prophetic dreaming, my dreams range anywhere from dreaming about conversations that I have with people that take place the next day to actual major events, right? I think I've done videos previously where I talked about dreaming about 9/11 before it happened. I dreamt about the war in Gaza and what's really behind that. I've had a lot of those different types of dreams, and I don't really talk about them. But I feel like we're at a point now where that kind of needs to be talked about more, because with everything that's going on, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people like don't know what to believe as far as what's going on, like with society. what's going on politically. And I'm glad that I'm seeing more people talking about the spiritual implications of what's going on politically and socially. That wasn't a conversation about 4 or 5 months ago. I'm seeing more commentary about the intersection between politics and spirituality. And so I want to dive in that more in this live and just share with y'all about what my predictions are, what my prophecies are for next year. And y'all can call me the crazy woo-woo lady. Y'all can get on here, and some of you may believe me, some of you may not. It's whatever. Like, my whole thing I've learned with my gift is that I'm just the messenger. Y'all take and do what you will with that information, right? So I'm not attached to whether or not y'all believe me. I'm not attached to whether or not y'all take what I say. You call me the crazy lady. I've been called the crazy lady my whole life. Right? And that's something else that I've noticed about, it's different being a spiritualist of color versus being a white spiritualist. I'm just going to say that, someone like Bella Sloan can get on here and talk about predictions and things, and she has that privilege because of her skin color. People, a black woman such as myself can get on here and talk about the same thing and be labeled as crazy, right? Because, a lot of reasons why people don't listen to black women. But y'all are on here, so y'all gonna listen to this black woman today, all right? So I definitely appreciate the likes and the shares. Definitely like, definitely share. For those of you who don't know, I do have a monthly podcast where me and my husband, we do monthly forecasts, so it's called Why in the Sky. It's on my Be the Vibe radio podcast that is on Spotify and all of the streaming platforms. And I've been doing that segment for like 4 or 5 years. And so every month we get on and I talk about, the tarot energy for the month. My husband gets on and talks about the astrology for the month, and we've yet to be wrong. We've yet to miss with that podcast. So, if you guys want to check that out, definitely. We did do the episode for October. It's out after being on hiatus for a bit. So if you want to get more of a deep dive and more information, about predictions and things like that, you can hit up my podcast. Jazzy Love said, I've stopped talking about the things I've been seeing because I don't know who will believe me. Yeah, I feel you. I definitely feel you. Which is so crazy because there's space for that gift. That's a gift. And there's space for it. There's a reason for it. Like, it's necessary. And it's unfortunate that, when you, like, people will either label you or they'll just, like, dismiss you until the stuff starts to happen. Then they want to come to you and be like, didn't you say? So, that's another reason why I want to be able to get on live and talk about this now, because when stuff starts to unfold, y'all can be like, oh, you heard it here first. She wasn't just talking crazy, right? So yeah, if you like, share, please comment. Again, I want this to be interactive. And then I think probably in a little bit, I'm gonna bring my husband on to share the space with me so he could talk about some of the astrology and whatever else he wants to talk about, because I know he wanted to jump in on this live. So and y'all gonna be hanging out with me and Santa Muerte in the back. I got her set up nice because this is her season. Well, it's always her season, but definitely October, November is her season. So that is her hanging out with us behind me. So and again, do you talk about numerology? That is actually not my gift. Like, that's not my lane. I know, well, I can talk about it in the context of tarot, but not like actual just straight numerology. My husband might be better versed in that than I am, but I do appreciate that question. But yeah, that's definitely not my specialty. I used to be into angel numbers for a long time, but I kind of got out of that. No real reason. I just kind of shifted my focus, but I did used to be into the angel number thing. But as far as the study of numerology, that's not my lane. So Um, so, and I have notes because, okay. I don't know. TikTok is always like weird things on the screen. And y'all, I'm still getting used to these lives. I should do them more often. I might start making this a regular thing. But I wrote notes so I don't have ADD moments and going off on tangents, even though tangents are fun. But I've been seeing numbers like crazy and trying to understand it. There was a website I used to go on that you could literally type in any sequence of numbers that you were noticing, and then it would tell you like a breakdown of what they mean. I can't remember the website because it's been years since I've been on it. So someone said I didn't know you was on TikTok. I am. Yeah, I am. I definitely, yeah. I probably more than I should be. I probably, I love TikTok. It actually pulled me away from angelnumbers.com. That was okay. Yeah. Bendición, how are you? But yeah, it used to be that you could type in, I think it's angelnumbers.com. And then you can go on there and type in your angel sequence and it'll break it down like what it means. For me, the numbers I see most often are 555 and 1234. Like those are the main angel numbers that I see. Oh yes, I haven't seen in a long time. I came to you twice. Remember you put me on to Angela and you did my Reiki for me. Yes. Yeah, where you been at? Is it Sacred Scribes? It is Sacred. Okay. Sacred Scribes. Yes, that's what it was. Sacred Scribes. So that's the website. Sacred. And then there is, Joanne Sacred Numbers. Yes. So I'm seeing all of y'all on here. So there's quite a few of you on here that are familiar with me, right? But yeah, I used to do this on Instagram, but TikTok has pulled me away from Instagram. The algorithms are so different. So I don't know. I find the engagement on TikTok to be a little bit more personable than IG. Let me see. I certify. Yes. Yeah, that I certify. That's what's up. That orange compliments your skin. Thank you. My moo-moo. Today's a moo-moo day. So thank you. I need to buy them up before they all go away for the winter. But yeah, y'all got a moo-moo today. Like I've done enough TikToks, videos with the low cut top. So I put the girls away tonight, and we y'all are getting this moo-moo. Hey Natalie, how are you? Okay, so I got a lot of folks that know me, like I know. I get on here and I cut up. I say the thing, y'all. That's me. I kind of have a filter, but not really. So we go. We'll see how this live goes with my lack of a filter. But yes, I'm modest today with the moo-moo. So let me see. I'm gonna make sure I stay on task. Stay on task. So I want to talk a little bit what I do and why this topic, right? So, yes, I'm a full-time spiritualist. Yes, I have a botanica, but I'm a spiritualist with a mission, and my main mission is liberation. So, years ago, I used to be an activist. I used to work in a nonprofit, and, I burned out on that. And then I was going through like my own journey. And then as I was going through my own journey and just kind of growing and evolving, I never went back to social activism because it's just, that type of work is hard on Black bodies. That's why I'm glad that there's just this energy of us resting and sitting back, because it's taxing for us. especially Black women, to be in social activism. So I never went back to that, but I transformed. I never stopped being an activist, though. I just changed the way I did it. So I went from social activism to spiritual activism, and the main focus of my spiritual activism is liberation. So, and even on my page, like I say that, liberation, period. So everything I do, everything I present is about liberation. Everything I practice is about liberation. Hoodoo, Lukumi, Palo, like everything, the root work I do, like everything I do, like my healing modalities, Reiki, yoga, meditation, like I approach everything from a space of liberation. A lot of the spirits that walk with me are chain breakers, you know what I mean? Like, and they are energies that are going to, yes, it's uncomfortable. Like, that's another thing. Sometimes the energy that I bring into a space is uncomfortable because, it is meant to, even without trying, it's meant to break you out of the things that limit you. But all of my spirits that are with me are all about freedom and liberation, and just not being limited, not being held back, right? So that is with that being said, that is another reason why I felt the need just to bring up this topic in this platform, because what's happening, the prophetic dreams that I've been having, spiritual activism, yes, that is my platform, all about spiritual activism, right? Because there's no separation, everything is interconnected, everything is intersectional, right? And so with the dreams I've been having, the messages from spirit, because that's something else. I host misas, I'm an espiritista, and from the dreams I've had to the messages in misas to the things that spirit, the muertos say when they come down in possession, have been the same messages for the past 2 years, right? And it has been messages of things that we need to do and we need to know in order to prepare, right? What are we preparing for? The spiritual war that we're in, because trust, yes, it's political war, it's social war, there are actual wars, but the root of it is a spiritual war. And y'all don't understand, like, when you have this, hey sis, dang, all my God family's on this live, okay? Iris is my God sister. So a lot of people don't understand that when you have that ability to look, thank you. Yes, keys, yes. Everything happens in the spiritual first, right? So keys is a medium, so keys also knows, right? The wars that we're having now, I was dreaming about in the spiritual realm 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So when things started popping off, it wasn't a surprise. It's still jarring, because to dream about things and have premonitions is one thing, but to still experience them is another. But it's not surprising. So, everything that happens in this plane on Earth is just a physical representation and an inversion of what's happening on the spiritual realm, right? And a lot of people don't know, especially when you like travel in your sleep and you're tapped into spirit. There's spiritual versions of every place. There's a spiritual version of the marketplace. There's a spiritual version of the malls. There's spiritual versions of banks. There's spiritual versions of red light districts and black markets. There's spiritual versions of war zones, like, And so, yes, so there's been those warnings and things that have been happening. And, I've held off on sharing because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get on here and people going to think I'm crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. If people think I'm crazy, whatever. I need to speak on what I'm seeing and dreaming about and what spirit is telling me. And then at that point, what people do with that information is, what y'all do, Hey, Michael, it's good to see you. Bendición. Yeah, my God family is deep on this live. So that's the reason why I'm doing this live, right? And so I want to talk about the themes that are to be expected, and I'm gonna talk a little bit, and then I'm gonna probably in the next like half hour or so, I'm gonna bring my husband on. I'm gonna send him a invite for him to get on camera, because I don't really, I don't really share a lot of like content with my family. So like not on TikTok. Like there's more stuff on IG, more stuff on Facebook, but I don't. So y'all gonna get to meet my husband tonight, right? So the one thing that's to expect going into 2026 is awakening, right? And this is just a continuation of an awakening that's already happening, but it's going to be there's been this thing where people have been awakening and they've been pretending like they don't see. It's going to get to a point where now you can't pretend and you can't go back to sleep, right? And with this awakening is going to become an additional push for freedom and liberation. So all of these liberation movements that have been happening, these protests, these groups, these activist groups, there's going to be momentum go in 2026, but there's going to actually be results and progress. And that's the thing. So there's this idea or this illusion that that we're losing, and that's not what's happening. We're actually winning and gaining momentum in this push for liberation in multiple different groups and multiple different liberation movements that are going on right now. And there's been such a success in it that now the powers that be have to pretend like and make it seem like they have the upper hand when they don't, right? Yes, we are winning and it's showing. So that's the thing, like we can't give into this illusion that that we're losing, because this society, this world is powered off of our collective thoughts. And that's why there's so much, and this is when you get into conspiracy theories and the full hat shit. But anybody who's in the basics of metaphysics and manifestation know how powerful your thoughts are. And so if you have one person that can change their environment based off of their thoughts, what do you do with a collective of people that are all thinking the same thing on the same wave? You can imagine what that can do. That's the reason why there's so much money put into propaganda and advertisements and things like that. All it is just programming, mental programming. And so there's a lot of, and I see it a lot on this app too, which it frustrates me when I see a lot of the when I see all these videos of people pushing a narrative, but I'm like, that's not the direct experience of what's happening. And it's just, and the powers that be have got hit to the power of TikTok. There's something about this platform and this algorithm that is way more potent than other social media platforms, right? So just to stay on topic, like the liberation movements are winning. They're winning. They're gaining ground, and we have to look to the positive and not the negative, right? We have to pay attention to the wins and not the losses, because the losses are manufactured. Okay? The losses are manufactured. So, and then again, you think about this being a spiritual warfare. There's battles and then there's wars. So just because the other side might win the battle doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the war. So yeah, they're winning a couple of battles, but the collective is winning the war, right? So with that being said, that's like just like on a collective level, just this awakening, this push for freedom, this liberation. You're gonna see that momentum and the success in that going into 2026 and then the rest of the year. But on a personal level, authenticity is the theme for 2026, right? This is gonna be a year of just authenticity, and I see it. I saw it starting to happen when we thought that TikTok was gonna go away the first time. And remember all those influencers that started it, like I don't know why they were doing this, but they were starting to admit like, oh yeah, I lied. I don't live this life that you thought I did. And then they felt stupid when TikTok actually didn't when it came back. And then ever since then, there have been like these exposures of these influencers that are not living the life that they pretend to live, right? And I don't know why, because with this, the way the algorithm is here on TikTok, it's a little harder to get away with pretending than IG. Like IG, you can play around a little bit more with the glamour magic, but on TikTok, it fades faster. I don't know what it is about this space that does that. So I don't even know why people get on here and fraud and scam, because it's like it's only, they get found out. But so it's very important to be authentic. And this is really important. I want to say this for the people that feel like you have to, like, the way our society is, there's just this idea push that if you don't fit a certain aesthetic, you can't succeed. And for those of us who don't fit that aesthetic, it could make, you feel like you can't win or that you shouldn't even bother to try. Next year is going to be like your time, like all of those who are not authentic are going to fall to the wayside, and it's already starting to happen. And people are going to be wanting and looking for authenticity, not just on social media, but in life too. So in your business dealings, in your day-to-day interactions, like 2026 is about being yourself, right? It's about personal development. It's going to be more difficult to trick others next year. So if you on some bullshit, you might want to get off of it before going into next year, because you're not going to be able to get very far. And it's going to be very interesting to see what this platform is going to look like next year. People getting exposed, people like getting called out. Like, so when you start to see that happen, just know that you heard it here first. Okay. I want to say something important too, because I've been having dreams about this and I pulled cards around this. Just know that the economy will get better next year. I know it looks dismal, which is so interesting because even the poverty that's going on right now is so manufactured. And I've been saying that for the past 2 years. And we've had Muertos come down and Misas and say that as well. There's money, there's commerce, there's, it's just the lack is being manufactured. Okay. So, and this is the reason why when I'm on any social media platform and I don't watch the news, but even if I'm somewhere the news is on, I scroll past anything that's speaking to the lack, oh, not enough jobs. Oh, not enough employment. Oh, people getting laid off. Oh, whatever. It's like, because it's a narrative that's being pushed in order to create that. Right? Resources are being held back in order to create that, but that is not the reality. And again, remember, I just said next year it's going to be harder to trick people. It's going to be harder to get people to believe that next year, which means that when the energy of prosperity is fully flowing, people are going to be tuned into that. So there's going to be jobs. There's going to be raises. There's going to be money. I wouldn't be surprised if there would be more programs. If they want to give us some more stipends and just random money, and like they did during the pandemic. So yes, so if you're at your wit's end with your money and your finances, just know that next year that will get better. If you've been looking for a job, just know next year you will find one. If you've been wanting a raise, or you've been wanting to move jobs, but you've been afraid because you're afraid that you're not going to get the new job, just know all that is going to flip on the other side going into next year. Captain said, I feel that. Yes. Can we get our shade? Amen. Like, and me as a business owner, as someone who owns a botanica, like, yes, but I've been blessed to be able to maintain my business, so I feel, really like, well, for one, I've done a lot of work to keep my business, like, just personal work as far as a business owner, the practical things, and spiritual work. Because I have, unfortunately, seen a lot of businesses like mine close down over the last 2 years, but we're going to start to see a flourish. So even if you're someone who's been wanting to open a business or start a business, just know that 2026 is the year to be able to do that. Okay. And all the things, yes, you're alchemist. All the things. Also, and this will make Natalie feel good. It's not just business, but also property, buying and selling. If you've been wanting to buy a house, and also I can see that being the case because interest rates are starting to go down. Home mortgage rates are going down. So that's going to be a continued thing going into next year. So if you've been wanting to buy a home, if you've been wanting to sell your home, if you've been wanting to start a business, like all of that will be something that you can do next year. So yes, there's hope. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this live, because I want to let y'all know, like, there's hope. Like, like, I don't like this whole doom and gloom shit. And not to say that, it's not warranted, because there's a lot of doom and gloom, but it's like, no, there's some rainbows on the end of the, and a pot of gold, hopefully, at the end of all of this. Right? Now, Lisa, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, everything you shared is positive, and I'm here for it. Yeah, that's what I'm about, Practical positivity. I like to be positive, and I'm also practical too. With that being said, along those lines, next year is the time to display your talents, right? So again, if you're an entrepreneur or just you have any other type of talent you want to share, next year is the time to do that, because again, people will be looking for that. Now this was interesting. And I've been having dreams about this too. One thing that will contribute to the collective movement of liberation next year is a collective emotional healing. And I know it sounds far-fetched because people are so angry right now and people are in such denial, but what's really happening is that America's going through a grieving process, right? Particularly a certain demographic of this country is going through a grieving process, and right now they're in the denial phase. And the anger phase of the grief process, because this country is in hospice. This country's in hospice. So there is that thing going on, but they feeling all the feels, yeah, and so, but yes, this country's in hospice. The ancestors are busy. Yep. And I'm gonna talk more about that too, especially when I pull my husband on this live. But yes, so yes, so they're in this country is in hospice. It's a certain group of citizens are in denial, and now they're in the angry phase of it. And but it's going to transition from anger and denial into acceptance, and then there's going to be a collective emotional healing around what's going on politically and socially, right? Expect there to be more displays of ownership and acknowledgement of wrongdoings, and not just on a collective level, but on a personal level too. Don't be surprised if you got someone who bullied you in high school that hits you up randomly next year and was like, I was such an asshole to you. Like, I don't know, I've been thinking about it. Like, I want to apologize. Like, there's going to be like more of those kind of conversations. If there's discords between family, you haven't talked to a family member in years, expect there to be some type of reconciliation and true reconciliation in the sense of ownership, acknowledgement, and actual emotional development and regulation around the situation, if that makes sense, right? And again, it seems so far-fetched because of where we're at now, but that will be a thing. That will definitely be a thing next year. So with that being said, whoever's listening, and also us as a collective, we have to work on our heart space, our heart chakras, and work on our forgiveness and our acceptance. And forgive does not mean forget. You know what I'm saying? Like you can forgive somebody and be like, okay, I forgive you because I can release this, but I still ain't fucking with you. You know, that's okay. That's okay, you know. But the other thing too that people don't realize is that our heart space is when you get into chakras, that's our electromagnetic field. How we attract things to us is dependent upon our heart space. And the more our heart is open, the more that we then attract good things, abundance, love. We magnetize when our heart space is clear, you know. And so that will put us in a space to receive the abundance that is guaranteed to flow in 2026, right? And with that being said, it's important to get into nature and the sweetness of things, right? Again, don't get caught up in the doom and gloom. We all know that it's shit's going on, right? But the birds are still chirping. You know, the bees are still out. Like they're, you know, we got a lot less bees, but they're still here with us. You know, the butterflies are still flying. Like we got less butterflies, but they're still here. You know, children are still laughing. You know, the sun is still shining. Like, don't get so sucked into the negative and the suffering that we forget to remember the sweetness, you know, of life. And for those of us who practice in ATR, that's when we lean into the teachings or the energy that Oshun brings. You know, because Oshun she teaches us about bitterness and sweetness. We can enjoy and appreciate sweetness without the bitterness. But my point is, don't get so caught up in the bitterness that you forget that the sweetness is there, right? That is what 2026 will be all about. So spend time in nature, spend time doing the things that you love to do. Like, remember that life is still good, you know, and there's still things to be joyful about and things to be appreciative about, right? Yes, that honey pot. And so, that being said, too, this goes back to displaying talents. I'm gonna need to belly flop in the yeah. Faith, we finna be spending a lot of time at the river. I'm gonna be pulling up to you so we can go to sweet water. Yeah, you know. Yes. Natalie wants to go. Yeah, we actually do need to plan like a group trip. I was just thinking about that the other day, like when I was in your area, Faith, when I was picking up my stuff, and you were at work on the day that you weren't supposed to be at work. I was like, Dad, I should have made time to hit the river since I was right over there. But but yes, get into nature. Now, getting into like what I said, I know. Maybe the river will help you make them coins. We'll talk about that offline. We'll talk about that. Getting into displaying and sharing talents. 2026 will be a time for art and artists, right? And this makes sense because whenever there is a period of strife or like political tension, there's a call to artistry. Like art, like a lot of what we're experiencing on a political and social level needs to be expressed in art. And it used to be that we would have musicians that would make art that would reflect the times, but a lot of our artists are bought and sold. So we're not seeing the protest music, the protest art on a mainstream level that we really kind of deserve to have. Like, we're not getting like Green Day. We're not getting the Rage Against the Machine. We're not getting, we did get Kendrick Lamar, if we can get more of that. And just, like that's the type of art and things that we need, like just this type of stuff that reflects the times. And so if you're a poet, if you paint, if you sing, if you rap, if you, whatever you do, that's art, if you, make whatever, produce whatever in the form of art, next year will be your time to really get into that and share it. And I'm not even saying like for profit. Like I'm not saying make your stuff and sell it. I'm just saying make your stuff and share it, because one, there'll be a next year will be the time where people will really be receptive and want to see art, because art also is a distraction, you know, and people want to be distracted right now. So if you can present, you know, and share your creative endeavor, people are going to eat that up, because next year people are going to want to see art. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more muralists, or like more like statues and commissions of art popping up around and things like that. Like that'll be, you know, the time for that. So if you are an artist and you do any of that, get on that. Get some commissions, get some murals, get some statues, get some, you know, whatever your some paintings, you know, put an art exhibit together, like, and people will show up for it. People will show up because people are gonna want that. So let me see. Let me pause. I know I kind of went on like a whole the whole thing. I'm drinking tea, by the way. It's iced tea, but it's mint tea that my husband makes, because it has a lot of magnesium in it. I tend to be magnesium deficient and iron deficient. You know, I didn't know I was anemic. Like I didn't find out I was anemic until I was pregnant, and then my doctor, my OBGYN was like, "Did you know you were anemic?" And I was like, "No, but that would explain a lot of things." Yeah, you find out a lot of crazy things about your body when you get pregnant. So I try to introduce a lot of nutrients in my body, because I don't really like taking supplements. So I try to, you know, drink and eat things that will give me magnesium or give me iron and stuff like that. So that's what the tea is. Just in case y'all was wondering, like, what's in that cup? Like, it's not liquor. It's not liquor. It is straight up iced tea. I want to switch gears and talk about some of the things to watch out for next year, as far as like things that may be a little negative, right? There's going to be a lot of conflict and confusion with communication. And it's already happening, like things in our media. We basically can't trust our media sources. We can't really trust now the news that we're getting on social media, especially on TikTok, because TikTok is not for us anymore. And so it's going to be necessary for us all to do our due diligence with the information that we're getting next year. Like double, triple check it and make sure that like use your critical thinking and use your discernment when you get any type of media, you know, information, before you like digest it and accept it as true. Okay, because there's going to be a lot of just contradictions and conflicts, even more than there already have been in that area. You know, it's funny, side note, so because I'm on like political TikTok, there have been all these videos that are like, oh, you know, this is being suppressed, like these protests in Portland, and you're not seeing this on your FYP, but it's like all that's on my FYP is people talking about the protests in Portland. And I'm like, okay, is it really being suppressed? Or because all I'm seeing is footage of these protests and people talking about what's going on in Portland. So just stuff like that, you know, I'm just like, okay, that's not making sense. And I don't know, it's interesting because, can you guys hear me? My phone is doing something weird on its own where it's changing the volume. So can you guys hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, because my phone, as soon as I started talking about the protests in Portland, my phone started doing something weird with the volume, and these things started just popping up, and I have not touched. My hands were not on my screen, so that's very interesting. So I'm going to move on because I don't even want to get, you know, censored talking about that. But you see what I mean? That proves my point. That proves my point. Proves my point, right? Wild. It is wild because I was just like, what is going on? Like, but literally I started to see the volume on my phone, on my iPhone start to go down once I started talking about that topic. So, child. Anyways, so, the other things that I want to talk about are expect a lot of upheaval and loss. Okay? So, yes, even though next year there's going to be a flow in the economy, there's going to be a lot of good things, there's going to be loss and upheaval, right? The loss and upheaval will be at the direct result of conflict. So I would not get into any fights if you can avoid it. And I would watch your words, because the idea is that if you get into conflict, you're gonna lose. Don't get into any fights that you are not sure that you're gonna win. Okay, because there's a higher likelihood that you're gonna lose any conflicts or fights that you get into. So it's best to just avoid conflict as much as you can. But I get it too. Like, you don't want nobody walking all over you either. Like, you don't want, you're like, I ain't no bitch. But but at the same time, don't pick your battles, right? Because there's going to be a lot of loss on the result of battles, which also on a global level lets me know what's happening with these wars. Because a lot of these wars that we're currently in, we're already not winning, but we're guaranteed to not win them, because there's this theme of losing wars. Just, so much of my mouth, yes. And your face fake, because your mouth may not say it, but your face do. So you're going to have to, you're going to have to fix your face. Like, you're going to have to, your neutral face. Yes. So muzzle your mouth and your face, right? Because your face be saying it all, right? Yeah, that's my problem too. While I make up my face, right? So yes, upheaval and loss. Watch your words. Watch the conversations that you have. I would stay prayed up, So I don't know where y'all are in your journey, but I am, as a hoodoo, I'm a hoodoo that prays. I stay prayed up. I pray at my Boveda. I pray with my Orishas. I pray in my garden. Like, I pray, and I got, there's Psalms 3 for your enemies. There's Psalm 65 for money. There's Psalms 23, just your general basic, prayer. And so hold on. Okay. My husband's trying to sneak in here. But he came in and he's watching my live, so he was doing the feedback. But because I'm about to bring him on, so he was grabbing some stuff so I can bring him on this live. But so because words are important next year, that means prayer and what you speak out is going to be important next year. So don't fight, pray. Do affirmations, do mantras, whatever you do, with your words, is going to be really important. Now, this doesn't need to be said because it's obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway because it is a theme. It is going to be a heightened year for governmental abuse and conflict. But I get the sense that it's going to be more of the internal abuse, infighting between government agencies and also governments fighting each other. So like a government of one country fighting a government of another country, and abuse in that area, and not so much on the people so much, but there is, shit rolls downhill. So the oppression is going to trickle down to us regardless. But don't be surprised if our policies get more oppressive than they've already gotten. Right. And again, that goes without saying. I don't need to have a prophetic dream to see that, because outside of me dreaming, I also recognize patterns, and my degrees in political science, so I could see outside of being spiritual, like just, it's obvious, right? It goes without saying, but there is a spiritual element to it, right? On a micro, that's a macro level. On a micro level, family conflicts. So on one hand, you're going to see situations of resolution, between people. I mentioned that earlier, but then there's also going to be heightened family conflicts as well. So try to create an environment of peace in your home as much as you can to avoid that. Try to implement conflict resolution policies or like practices, because that's something else. Like as a culture, in Western culture, we don't do enough with conflict resolution. We don't like we don't have that down, and it's a shame because certain things escalate in our culture in conflict that shouldn't escalate because we don't have those conflict resolution skills. So I actually would invite us all, even including myself, like my god sibling Omi says, like, especially black folks, they say like black folks, our conflict resolution is conflict. And that's the reason why. And Omi's not wrong, like when they said that, it was so funny to me because I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like our conflict resolution is like the conflict itself. And but that's why we get accused of being aggressive, and like there's the angry black woman trope and all those things, because we gonna address the elephant in the room. We gonna say the thing. We're gonna handle this right now. And that's one way to get something resolved, but that don't always work. We need to have other methods too, right? So I'm just throwing that out there as a joke. But yes, this is definitely a time to just develop conflict resolution, especially since next year is a year that we're trying to avoid it altogether. Conflict, we need to have things in place to where things can get resolved without escalation. Okay. So maybe that's the theme: resolution without escalation. That's the theme for next year, right? And this is the last one that I want to talk about before I bring my husband on. We're gonna see an increase in destructive masculine energy. Okay, this also goes without saying, because when I was sitting at my Boveda today, I've been doing a lot more work around my deities and my spirits that are focused on the goddess and the great mothers and the divine feminine, because there's a war on the feminine, and that it's a spiritual war that has manifested into a physical war. So there's a war on the female body and just the female essence. And so I was thinking about how important it is next year, right now really, but especially going into next year, to hone in on your practices that center the divine feminine. So if you, for me, it's Kali Ma, so, I have other, and even Santa Muerte, because she's very much a feminine essence, very much a mother essence. But Kali Ma is like one of my, deities that is like the complete embodiment of the divine feminine and the goddess. And so and I usually only work with her in certain times, but I think next year is going to be a year where I work with her constantly, because she's such an intense energy that it's like I used to be that I can't be in that all the time. But now I'm like, okay, no, I need to lock in on this, because the way to neutralize this war on women is to worship the divine feminine and get into practices that carry that energy, right? Because yes, there's going to be destructive masculine energy, more misogyny, more oppression of marginalized groups at the hands of men. And we see that with these laws. We see that, on a social level. Unfortunately, I'm starting to see more attacks, stories of violence against women. And when I say women, I use that term broadly. I'm including trans women in on that conversation as well. You know, and so there is that. I'm starting to see, unfortunately, more instances of that, and I think a lot of it is because our Western culture, especially in Christianity, it is very patriarchal. There's not and then the little bit of worship of Mother Mary that is done in the terms of like evangelical, you know, Christian practice. It boxes Mary in as just the mother of Jesus and this virgin who had a miracle baby. So it fits this idea of female purity that is actually harmful to women. You know, so the little bit of female recognition that is within evangelical Christianity is still harmful. You know, you don't talk about Mary Magdalene. You don't talk about the Black Madonna. You don't talk about, you know, these other female, like you don't even talk, there's not even enough conversations around the mother of Mary, Jesus's grandmother. You know what I mean? And so, and she's just regulated to this vessel that produced Jesus miraculously. You know, and so I feel like, you know, we were to, you know, for those who are Christian, because I do acknowledge other people who, you know, who are not, they may not be spiritualists, they may not practice, you know, the same practices as me or some of my other colleagues. They, you know, they may just be Christian, they may just be Catholic, they may just be Jewish, they may just be, you know, Islamic. Now there is a little bit more of the emphasis of the divine feminine within Islam, like pure Islam, not, well, that's, I won't even get into that conversation. You guys know what I'm trying to say. But it's still, there is a certain patriarchal lean in Islam that is a cultural thing. It's not the true practice of Islam, if that makes sense. So I'm not trying to get into a conversation and debate about the Abrahamic religions, but what I am saying is that no matter what you practice, there needs to be some type of focus on the divine feminine within that practice to circumvent and neutralize this attack on women that's going on, because it's going to get more aggressive and more oppressive next year. Hold on. Yes, who is it?
It's me.
Hey, baby, what's up?
Hug.
Hug. Wait, don't knock over. Let's say hi to the people. It's my son. Mommy's on a live.
What's his name?
I don't know. It's a lot of people. It's all the names. TT's on.
Eric.
Huh?
Where's Kimbe?
They're not on there. TT's on though, but you can't see her. But she said hi.
Hi.
Well, with that being said, I'm actually gonna let me send an invite. Wait.
Where's Daddy?
We gotta get him on here. Let me see. Hold on. How do I? Oh, here we go. All right. So I just sent my husband. Ashton, I didn't know you were on here. All of the people, all of the folks, like my fam, they all know Nugget. My son called Nugget. That was his name when I was pregnant, before I had a name for him, and then it just stuck. And, you know, that's the thing about black folks. Like, when you have a nickname, that's your nickname forever. Like, my cousin, I have a cousin named Baby Jeff. He's like my age. He's like 40, and we still call him Baby Jeff. So that's the thing. My baby gonna be 50 years old, and we still gonna be calling him Nugget.
Daddy's basing the chicken.
He's okay. Go tell Daddy I put the invite on him so he can get on the live.
Okay.
You have many. Yeah, it's true. I don't know what my husband cooking, but it smells good. Now I'm hungry. But yeah, so that's basically what is to be expected. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more laws against women and women's bodies, and just more oppressive situations in general. But again, I feel like there'll be attempts. But remember, these movements of liberation are going to have more power, more momentum. So I think that stuff will come up, but I think there'll be a lot of blocks, to it. Yes, baby. What'd you tell Daddy? Okay, baby.
You told me to. I told you to his bike.
Baby,
in your lap.
No, I don't want you in my lap, baby. You too
Get
old.
my arm wet.
Because you all up on me. You in my business. Faith, come get your nephew.
No.
Oh, I did not expect. Oh God, now you're having a meltdown. Y'all, my child. Oh, meltdown. TT gonna get you. TT gonna get you. Now he's having a meltdown. Y'all, my baby's a Scorpio and he's a child of Oshun. So, and he'll be 4, so he's a toddler. So you already know the theatrics that go on with him. So yeah, I know he's funny. He's funny. So as I'm waiting for my husband to jump on this live, are there any questions about my predictions or just anything that you just want to know that you have questions about? Y'all quiet. Y'all don't want to. You got a whole oracle on the live and y'all don't want to know? You ain't got no questions? Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, will the Epstein files be released? Child. So I'm going to say this, okay, about that. And I've alluded to it. I've made some videos that have kind of dropped hints. There's a direct relationship between politics and satanic ritual. And so those files are a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper than just a court document. It's a lot deeper than just a court document. And I've also said that these ICE raids are not just ICE raids. It's not about immigration. So that's all I can really say on this platform about that. That list is also, there's a spiritual component to that list. Yeah. Yep. Oh my goodness. Hold on. So he said he sent the invite. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, can you repeat the name of the feminine energy you mentioned? Yeah, so I mentioned like different deities and feminine energies in or important goddess energies in whatever practice that you're in. So for me, I mentioned Kali Ma because she's a essence that is in my spiritual court. And so she's a goddess that, you know, is in my spiritual court. So I work with her when it comes to like the divine feminine. I also work with the Black Madonna and the Virgin Guadalupe. So I do a lot of prayers, a lot of novenas with those two saints, you know, Virgin Guadalupe, especially her. And then the Black Madonna. So those are, you know, there's Mary Magdalene if you're in, you know, Christian practice. If you're in any type of African traditional religion, there are tons of like Oshun, Yemaya, like, you know, there's all, you know, you can now again.
Mommy?
Yes, baby.
How Daddy? In the invite.
Okay. Tell him I'm going to try to send it again and then see if he can click on it, okay? So, you know, but if you're going to connect with the Orishas, just make sure that you do it in the proper way if you're not initiated. And if you are initiated, like, or if you're not initiated, get with someone who is. And that's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get too much into working with the Orishas because I don't want to I don't want to open that door. The live is not about that, but also I don't want to I don't want to start no debates about it, like, you know. So yeah, so hopefully that answers. Overall, is it going to be a good year? Yes, it's absolutely going to be a good year. Can you, okay, I got that. Let me see. Yes, it is going to be a good year. Okay. Any other strong feminine energies other than Santissima and Kali Ma to work with? Yes. So, yeah, like I said, so it was Virgin Guadalupe. I mean, then you can, if you're into the Greek or Roman panthology, then you can get into, like Venus, Aphrodite, Hecate, Hera. If you're into the Kemetic sciences, is Isis, there's Sekhmet, but Sekhmet is intense. So there's, you know, there's a lot of different energies. If you are into spiritismo, then you can focus on your muertos or your court that is feminine. So some people have gitanas, some people have madamas. Is one way, you know, you can work more with like the more just feminine, you know, or motherly energies just in your spiritual court without even getting into working with deities and things like that. But that requires you to know what's in your spiritual court. You know, now if you don't know what's in your spiritual court, you know, you can always attend misas. If you're in Atlanta, I host misas. Or you can there are spiritualists that can do spiritual court readings. Now I know there's been debates about, you know, doing a reading to determine what's in your spiritual court. Some those in Spiritista will say that you have to have a misa to do that. I'm able to do readings of people's spiritual court. So, and I've been able to accurately do it. It's the same thing that I do in a misa, except I'm one-on-one with somebody. Now, sometimes, you know, there's things that go on in those readings that require a little bit more, and then you need a misa to fulfill that stuff. But being able, a medium, like, we can identify the dead on someone whether we're in a misa or not. You know, sometimes I get people in my store and they're just talking to me and I can see their dead people with them. Like, so yes, I can do spiritual court readings. I can at least tell you who is showing up and who, you know, a bit who walks with you and to kind of help you along those lines. I know there's some other spiritualists that can do spiritual court readings. So those are ways to kind of know, you know, who's in your spiritual court. So hopefully, you know, that answers that question. Hi, what is the conversation about tonight? 2026 predictions, what to expect, and how to prepare. I would book one, but you told me they won't talk to anybody but me. Yes, that's true. There have been There been there are times where I do readings for people, and the people they're dead don't want to talk through me. You know, and I'm honest about that. It's rare, but it does happen every so often. You know that the spirits will be like, we don't want to go through a third party. That is a thing. You know, so when that happens, I usually have to give the person their money back or tell them that I can't do the reading. You know, but yes, that can happen. You know, because there are spirits that they don't trust, no matter who you are, or they want to talk to you, the person, their person directly. They don't want to go through a third party. So in those instances, and I teach people how to develop their mediumship and their bovedas and their different things, so they can connect directly with their people, since their people don't want to talk through a third party. Yeah, it absolutely is a trust thing. Especially them Caribbean muertos. And the Caribbean muertos, especially people who have Jamaican ancestry, them Jamaican dead do not like talking through third parties. They do not. They will look at you like, who the fuck is you? Who sent for you? Let me see. Okay, perfect. So I got Shaman on here, Shaman hands.
Mommy.
That is not daddy. Where's your daddy?
He's right here.
Oh my God.
Mommy.
And why can't I see daddy?
I can't see you.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Is that it? Yep, there we go.
I'm trying to.
Mommy.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to change because I have it where we can mainly see you.
Mommy.
Oh, hey, baby.
I love you.
Huh?
I love you.
I love you too, baby.
You in the kitchen?
Huh?
You in the kitchen?
No, I'm in the office where you left me.
How do I change it so that you're on my big screen?
I'm trying to y'all see, you see how we don't be, what's this? Okay, there we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I love you. I want to give you a kiss.
Oh my God, TT said nugget, please. Yo, that's my family, y'all. That's my baby and my husband. Yeah. I think yeah, that's Nugget and so love, introduce yourself.
Peace, what's going on, y'all? Hold on, we're still working this thing out.
I think this is your first time being on a live.
This is clearly my first time being on live. Okay, but you can hear me okay?
Yeah, you know you talk a little low.
I love you, Mommy.
I love you too, baby.
Yes, Daddy loves mommy too, right?
Yeah.
That's right. All right, what's going on, y'all? So this is, like I said, my first time on live, so forgive me if I get my feet wet for a few minutes. But yes, Shaman Hands in the building. Forgive me because I'm a little thrown off because I'm in the middle of juggling cooking.
Mommy,
Also,
I love you.
And a toddler. No, there's a little bit of a feedback.
It is?
Mm-hmm. Are you just on, how's the sound? Are you using anything, or is it just your phone?
It's just my phone. You know what?
Okay.
It might be the stand that I'm using because I think it's blocking my microphone. Hold on.
I think that's what's going on, yeah. And I'm just answering questions while you're that's the baby. Yeah, that's my baby. You can tell he looks just like us, copy paste.
Not me. Johnny.
How's that? Does that sound better?
Much better, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because hold on, let me take my case. I'm gonna take my case off my phone. Hold on.
I love you.
I love you too.
I thought you was off.
No.
I thought you was paused.
Y'all, please bear with us. Well, while he's getting his mic, okay, you good?
What's this?
Were there any other questions, while he's getting situated? Because y'all were asking some really good questions.
Can I put this sticker on?
Mm-hmm. You just all right, keep it on the cell phone. All right.
Mommy, love you.
I love you too, baby.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
That's way better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was my phone case was in the way
Okay.
because I got it on the
Yeah,
stand.
I don't want it to sit in you.
Okay, so but it's gonna be Daddy's turn to talk for a little while. Okay.
No.
Yes.
No.
You're gonna have to go in another room.
No.
All right, so you're gonna have to let Daddy talk for a little bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can you sit up for me? Thank you. Good job.
So
All
you were listening in on what I was saying, right?
Yes, I was. And I was in the middle of asking for forgiveness because I've been juggling cooking. I'm in the middle of juggling dishes on the stove and in the oven, and clearly a 3-year-old on my lap, which is highly unpredictable. But I'm here. We made it.
Yes. So what do you want to share? Are we heading into a dictatorship for real? Child, we've been in a dictatorship. I mean, jokes aside, no. It looks that way, but from again, because you guys understand, I got my degree in political science. And when you talk about the formula of a dictatorship, this does not follow the formula of a dictatorship. It's a person that it's an administration that wants it to be a dictatorship, but we have a administration that doesn't even understand the workings of our constitution and our 3 branches of government. They don't even understand it enough to even to take it over to be a dictatorship. So it looks that way, but thankfully for us, we have an administration that's so incompetent that they don't even have the ability to create a dictatorship because they don't even understand how the system works enough for it to do that. Does that make sense? Yeah. The key thing about a dictatorship is that you need to have your military behind you. You have to have and our military is not behind the current administration. So does that answer that? The moment that we see our military supporting this administration, that's when we should be worried. So hopefully that answers that question. You feel better about that. Yeah. So anyways, love, let's talk about, were you able to hear some of what I shared, and what do you want to share? Like, do you want to talk about the astrology of what we're expecting next year, or just in general? What is your perspective as an astrologer?
So, I was able to.
Wait, stop. Wait, hold on. Love, are you smoking?
I am now.
No, don't. Because they said that I just got a notice from TikTok. They said they don't want the smoking on camera.
Oh, is that what that happened with
Don't get me violated. Don't get me a violation. Don't be coming in here getting me in trouble.
I told y'all I'm new to this.
Off of TikTok.
I told y'all I'm new to this now.
Yes, no smoking cigars on camera, please. Thank you. And while you're doing this, let me get the baby to bed. Go ahead and talk. I'll be back, y'all.
So, okay, what's going on, y'all? I'm gonna do my best because now I got babies yelling in my background. But yes, I was able to listen in while I was cooking. I don't know if y'all probably can hear that in the background. I apologize. But as far as the astrology is concerned, I did have a chance to kind of skim over the year for 2026, and honestly, it's not a whole lot that I want to talk about because if I do get into that, it's going to be a very long conversation. But the main thing that I did notice was the Venus retrograde. So that's going to be one of the main highlights for next year. We did not have a Venus retrograde this year, but we will have one. I believe it starts sometime in October, if I remember correctly when I was looking. So that actually ties in a lot to what Latoya was saying about the art, and about the money as well. But anytime a planet goes retrograde, basically we're dealing with the planet coming. Not only is it going in reverse, from the standpoint or from the perspective of the journey that is making through the zodiac, but what a lot of people don't realize is that when a planet is going retrograde, it's actually preparing to come towards us. So as it's orbiting around the sun, in relation to the way that Earth is orbiting around the sun, there are moments when the planets move away from us, and there are moments when the planets move further towards us. So retrograde is one of those things that you can measure to know when the planets are moving towards us. So what does it mean when Venus is moving towards us? It means that, well, let's talk about general retrograde energy before we get into Venus. So what does it mean when a planet is moving towards us? What it means is the energy that's associated with that planet, the energy that is emitting from that planet towards us, because it's always emitting energy towards us, right? Regardless of what direction it's going in relation to the different motions that Earth is making and that planet is making. But when the planet itself is moving towards us, that means that the source of those vibrational energies, the actual source of the vibrations, is moving towards us. So that means that the vibrations that are always coming from that planet in our direction are coming to us faster during retrograde time. So what does that mean in regards to Venus? Venus deals with, so basically to just sum it up first, Venus deals with anything that has to do with Taurus energy, and it has to do with anything associated with Libra energy. So Libra energy is the energy that I just spoke about in regards to what Victoria mentioned about the artistry and art being more important next year and being more prominent next year, because the planet of art and the planet of all things of beauty, poetry, any type of art that you can think of, the energy that Venus is emitting and the energy that's associated with these concepts are going to be vibrating towards the planet Earth much faster. So that is why, or that's part of why Toya said that artistry is going to be more important, because we're going to be basically charged with not only dealing with the energy of art, the energy of balance, harmony, and then on the Taurus side, the energy of money, resources, and that sort of thing. Not only are we going to be charged with dealing with those energies more because they're going to be emitted into our experience more, but we're also going to be charged with reviewing that energy and reviewing those things and reviewing those concepts so that we can figure out over time how our approach towards those energies need to change. Because the way that we have been approaching those energies is going to be outdated if we continue to approach those energies in the same way as we move forward, approaching the retrograde, during the retrograde, And after the retrograde is over, we will be tested in regards to how well we've been able to change the way we approach those things. Does that make sense so far?
I mean, yeah, I know I'm jumping back in like in the middle of it, but from what I catch, like it makes sense and it corresponds. It sounds like what you're saying is corresponding to what I was saying about the art and even down to just our personal development and evolution, you know? Um, and how like yes there's going to be a movement um like with liberation movements are going to make a headway and you know with those liberation movements like comes change you know like change always follows liberation you know because if we're able to do things the same way we wouldn't need to be liberated there wouldn't be a need for any of that you know so yeah, that definitely makes sense. Hold on, let me close the door because I hear myself my echo on the other side of the house. But so yeah, did you? And before we jumped in, did you tell people who you are and what you do?
I didn't get into that yet because I was thrown off by the screaming coming in the background.
Oh yeah, your son. He's fine now. He's watching Clifford, the Big Red Dog, or whatever that show is.
Right. So
right.
yeah, so I can get into that. But first, I just wanted to bring you up to speed while you were out of the room. Basically, what I was saying is that the main energy for this coming year, 2026, the main thing that I saw when I was just, it was a real quick skim that I did just over the whole year, just looking for like what was the most prevalent energy. The main thing that I saw that's going to be one of the biggest things is the Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde doesn't happen every year. We didn't have one this year, but we will be having a Venus retrograde next year. If I remember correctly, it starts sometime in October
of next year.
Of next year, yeah.
Okay, and how long does it last? Did you talk about that?
So I didn't. So the Venus retrograde typically lasts about 40 days, which actually ties into all of the mythologies that deal with this constant theme of 40 days and 40 nights. So whether we're talking about the Bible, whether we're talking about any of these other spiritual traditions, the 40 days and 40 nights, that is directly associated with Venus retrograde and what happens during Venus retrograde. So being tested specifically in the areas of resources, money, your personal possessions, that definitely gets into what Jesus was going through in the biblical stories. But also in other traditions as well. And so,
side note, now that we're talking astrology, because I've been wanting you to talk about this on TikTok, can you tell people what this Lionsgate portal is? Can you please put that myth to rest, please? What is the Lionsgate portal? Tell us. Tell the people. Tell the people.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because I want to bust some bubbles. I want to liberate people from the myth of the Lionsgate portal.
So before we get into that, let me get the introductions in because I will most likely forget to do that if we start getting into something like that. And then I definitely want to get into what I really want to talk to, which is something completely aside from astrology as well before we get out here. But yeah, about me. So, for those that don't know me at all, I know there are people on here that know me well. But for those that don't know me at all, my background, and a lot of people that actually know me well don't even know this about me. But my background is actually in computer science. Mm-hmm. So I'm a software engineer. And so, I was in school for software engineering. I actually was on a 5-year program in software engineering. And I was this close to going that route professionally in terms of what most people think of when they think of software engineering, like going into a corporation and working with computers and designing and creating programs and things like that. Debugging programs, fixing programs, making programs that don't work, finally work, all that kind of stuff. But long story short, through a series of what seemed like at the time a series of unfortunate events, which actually I'm very grateful for now. Now that I know what's really going on in the world, I didn't end up going that route. And the reason I say that I'm fortunate that I did not go that route is because um, I was very skilled in the area of software engineering. Extremely skilled actually. And so, if you think about all of these movies that we've seen over the years, where you have like the protagonist and the antagonist. Let's say the antagonist is like a crazed terrorist that wants to take over the world, right? They may have the mind to do that, but they don't necessarily have the skills to put it into motion with all the different moving parts that's involved, right? So in all the movies that you've seen like that, who are the people that they manipulate into doing the work for them? I'm asking you.
I don't know.
The engineers and the scientists.
Mm.
And so they don't just go after any engineers and scientists. They go for the best. They go to the best of the best. So we're talking about, blackmail, kidnapping, all that kind of stuff. And so the more I actually began to wake up after I ended up not going that route, I was very thankful that I did not go that route because I was actually headed in the direction of dealing with some very top secret stuff. The last interview I actually had in that realm of corporate America, I was actually applying for a top secret position, not knowing anything about what's really going on in the world like I do now. So, you and Nugget would have been in trouble. So I'm very glad that I did not go that route. But with that being said, as I began to move through my awakening, and I started learning things about the law of attraction, I started learning things about what's really going on in the spiritual realm, who really runs the world, and all of these sort of things. I started getting into studying the energy body. And the reason I started getting into studying the energy body was because of my own health challenges. This is something else that a lot of people don't know about me. I started passing kidney stones when I was 19 years old. So from 19 years old, moving forward several years, I had a lot of kidney stone spells that I was not getting any solutions for. I went to all kinds of doctors all over the state of North Carolina. That's where I'm from, North Carolina. And nobody knew what to do with me. Everybody said I was a medical anomaly. They'd never seen this in somebody so young before. I was having all kinds of tests run, but no solutions. You know what I'm saying? And so once I finally ended up going the route of holistic health and holistic wellness, that's when I finally started to find solutions for my issues.
Because a lot of people don't know that. That's how we met. We met when he was, for those who are familiar with Atlanta, he used to work at Seven Nanda in the wellness department, and that's how, I actually met him because I was dating his friend at the time, and his friend introduced us. But don't worry, me and his friend broke up like for a while before I started dating Sean. But yeah, we connected initially. Excuse me. We connected initially over health, like holistic health, because that, was also my background. Before those were the types of services I was offering before I started offering spiritual services. I was doing wellness consulting and and Reiki services, in addition to the readings I was doing. So we when we first started partnering, we were giving events, lectures, and about different topics of holistic health. So that's how we originally got started together.
Yeah, that's right. And for those that are wondering, no, I did not know that they were together when I first met Latoya. I had no idea. I was not introduced to Latoya as in this is my I was just
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just introducing her to her like, yeah, this is Chrysalis. That's what she was known as at the time. This is Chrysalis. And I
Hmm.
was just like, oh, okay, hey. And that was it. I went back to talking to my friend. So
Yeah, that's exactly how that went.
yeah. So
That's
we didn't
exactly how
even end
that
up
went.
linking up till like much later. I still at that point didn't even know that they were in a relationship at that time. So just for people who may be wondering. But anyway,
So they don't think that you were a home wrecker.
I had no idea. I had no idea. But anyway, so getting back to what I was saying about my story, getting into the holistic healing, I was all in. I mean, if you can imagine dealing with kidney stones, and I don't know if anybody out there listening right now has ever had a kidney stone experience, but it is one of the worst pains that you could ever experience in your life. Guaranteed.
Hold on, real quick. Cynthia said your altar is beautiful. Thank you. You see, Mama back there. Thank you very much. But yeah, go ahead. So you were talking about the kidney stones and the health.
Yeah, that's kidney stones. That is some very serious pain. So when I went to go see a very good friend of mine who is now on the other side, so rest in peace, um,
Mm.
the artist Henson. But he was like the holistic guy. Like he was like the medicine man, if you will, of the community in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so, I went to go see him because I tried everything else I could think of. I didn't really know much about holistic healing, but I was just like, well, maybe he can help me. And so after going for years and years and years with no help at all, and then I go to see him, and he remedies my situation within a week. I was just like, okay, I'm all in. Like, I don't know, I'm still learning. I'm new to this, but anything that I can learn about holistic health, this is what I'm doing. Because he was the one that relieved me of my pain. Like I said, kidney stones, some very serious pain to deal with. And so one thing just led to another, and I ended up getting into learning about the energy body. I think I mentioned this um, briefly a few minutes ago, but I got into the
Hey, keep
energy
talking.
body.
I need to get some water. I have a cough.
All
Keep
right.
talking.
But yeah, I got into the energy body. I got into energy medicine. And so I started learning about, the chakra system. I started learning about the meridians. I started learning about the auric field. And I started actually working with those things to continue to build and strengthen my own health up. And so the more I started actually learning and understanding, particularly the chakra system, once I started really understanding the chakra system, I just had this moment where I was just like, oh my God, like this right here, this is the software engineering. This is why I went to school for software engineering so that I could understand this. Because when I looked at the chakra system, when I first started really understanding the chakra system, I was like, this is like a seven tier CD-ROM that I'm looking at right here. And this is for the biocomputer. We all have our own what I call the biocomputer, that is the human body. And especially when you get into the energy body, that is the software. So all the different components that people are now learning more and more about, the meridians, the aura, the chakras, the basic grid, the Celtic weave, all these different things that are the invisible portions of our human anatomy, that is our software. And so with my software background, I was picking that stuff up really, really, really quick. And so that's when I really started to understand this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be going off trying to work with computers and software programs and that sort of thing. I was able to gain that knowledge and that understanding of how a computer works and the science behind computers and software engineering and program development in order to do this with the energy body. And so that's what I do now. I do what I call shamanic healing. Um, I do have initiation in Reiki, but I also have been able to put together a lot of different forms of energy healing and bring them together into what I call my own version of shamanic healing. And one of the main things that I teach, and this is actually something that recently I've been realizing more and more. A lot of people don't know about me as well. Is a lot of people know me for my skills and my contributions in the realm of astrology. And while I love astrology and it's a wonderful tool, and it's actually a very essential tool, what most people don't realize is my main thing is energy medicine and meditation. So um, that gets right back into the of software engineering when we talk about Victoria. I don't know if you heard this when you were out of the room, but I was speaking about how I went through that journey of understanding that these systems that we use in the energy body, like the chakras and the meridians, like that is our personal software. That is the software of the bio computer, which is our human body.
Right.
So
Let's talk about that. I want to dive into that a little bit because that does go into our conversation about like what like next year, like preparing and whatnot, spiritually. And so I know I talked a lot. I talked a lot about what's coming and then kind of a little bit how to prepare. But I feel like that what you're talking about ties into how to prepare. Um, I know one thing for sure that's going to be needed is diving more into ancestor work practice, like veneration, and also working with your spirit guides because that was brought up, like like connecting with the divine feminine. The divine feminine within your family is also a part of that as well. Elevating the matriarchal side of your family, the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunts, those ancestors or whatever. Um, Connecting with your spirit guides, that's a part of how to prepare and fortify yourself for next year, but also like your own inner work, right? And so because I did talk a bit about how personal development is important and even tapping into like your creativity and everything, and how that's important as well. And so a big part of that to be able to do that is meditation, and it's funny because I recently just facilitated a mini retreat. So a lot of people don't know. Well, some of you on this app know because I was when they were doing the whole Hillman Talk thing. I was contributing by doing meditation classes on this app. So some of you do know that I have a background in meditation and how I started when I was awakening and I was coming out of my own, coming into my own spiritual journey. I transitioned out of Christianity into Buddhism. And so a lot of my early practice was meditation. And so, Santo Iawo. I'm sorry. We got an Iawo on the live cutting up. Oh my God, you're so funny. It's good to see you on here. But I spoke a lot about so I did, so I have that background in meditation, in Vipassana meditation, which is it's in the Theravada or Tibetan family or lineage of Buddhism, of meditation. I say all that to say that it's really important, and we've been saying this for years. Like when we first started getting on social media, like when we were on Periscope, and for those of you who even remember Periscope, y'all know how long ago that was. We've been telling people the importance of meditation, and there's different types of meditations, that you can do simply to ground yourself or to clear your aura or to strengthen your aura so you're not influenced by a bombardment of outside influences. Like, yeah, Periscope. Faith remembers. Yo, that was a long time ago, like our Periscope days, and even some of our very old YouTube videos. But yes, meditation is extremely important. And if all else fails for me, that's what I go back to. I meditate every morning at my Boveda, with my Orishas, because I have a Santo room that's got all of my spiritual stuff in one space, or I'm meditating outside, or like I try to do that I've been on that practice since at least for the last 10 plus years, no, longer than that. I've been doing that. Like, I started meditating back in like 2006, so we're talking, yeah, almost about 20 years I've been on that. And no matter what you practice, it fits into that. So, yeah, I'm glad that you're bringing up the meditation because, a big part of being able to, I talked about healing the heart space and forgiveness and emotional growth and emotional regulation in terms of next year. A lot of your ability to do that is going to be assisted by having some type of meditation practice. And recently, I had recently did a day long retreat. One of my, I don't know if Natalie's still on this live, but she gave me the idea to just, because she's like, well, if we want to learn more about meditation, what do we do? And I was like, or how, can we, could you teach a class? I'm like,
That right
well,
there.
you know,
That right there. That right
huh?
there. What you just said.
What?
That right there. What you just said. What do we do? How do we do it?
How do we write?
That's what I want to get into. And I'm gonna let you finish, but I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize that point
Like, what do
because
we do? Right, because when I
listen.
started my meditation practice, I was going to Buddhist temples because they have sits, the regular meditation sits that are open to the public. Anybody can come in and sit and meditate. And then there was a group that met every Sunday at a library, at a local library, that they would do sits and then like Dharma talks. So so she asked me, how do we learn? And I'm like, do you teach a class? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know about a class, but I can maybe do something that's similar to what I was going to when I was first learning meditation, which is like a day long retreat. So I recently just had hosted a day long retreat at my store at Cindy's Conjure, where I invited people in, and I turned it, and what I did was I focused the meditation. I taught a basic class on how to meditate. We meditated, like, it was from 11 to 4, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. But I also included my other healing modalities. I offered Reiki. I offered sound bowls. I offered spiritual baths. Like, we had food, like nutritious food. And it sold out. Like, I was surprised at the amount of people that showed up for that. And it let me know that's what people really need. People really need that time to be able to sit and like center and like reflect and be with self, and but also in a space where even if you don't know how to do it, there's somebody there that's showing you how to do it. And so I say all that to say that next year that's going to be important, those moments of being able to, like, daily taking 5-10 minutes meditating. And if you don't know about meditation, like I know myself, I know Sean or Shaman Hands, we're definitely available to teach more about that because, I can speak for myself. I love teaching about that. Like, the meditation, the ability to sit in stillness and center yourself is foundational for so many things. I do it before I root work. I meditate and I sit and I ground myself and I connect with my spirits, and then I work some roots. you know. So I know that was a rant or a tangent, but I wanted to piggyback and just kind of support you know support what you were saying. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just gonna start pick up where you left off with the point that you made that I wanted to emphasize, which was the concern that people have and the issue that people have with not knowing how to do it. Like that's the whole reason I put a class together for meditation because people don't know how to meditate. They don't know. And first, let me say this. This is the reason why I'm so passionate about it now because over the years I've been understanding more and more. For one, people don't even really know what meditation is. So when we hear people talking about meditation, you you hear the same terms over and over again. So a lot of them you just mentioned just now, like this has become a regular go-to type of terminology where we hear things like centering ourselves, sitting quietly, stilling the mind, um, calming the mind, slowing down our thoughts, or trying to get rid of our thoughts, or break through the mental chatter and these sorts of things. But um, a lot of people, I would honestly say confidently, most people don't know still what meditation is, because until you efficiently experience efficient meditation, you're not going to know what it is because you haven't experienced it. You're just going off of what you heard other people say. And this is, it's so many different like mind twists to this, because on one hand, um, until you experience what it's like to actually have an efficient meditation, especially when you get into a regular rhythm of it and doing it more and more, the things that are associated with meditation that we hear sound absolutely ridiculous. They sound pointless. They sound like this is something that I'm not supposed to be doing right now because of everything that's going on. Why would I want to sit and just not do nothing for long periods of time when there's all this stuff happening around me that I
It
got?
seems counterintuitive.
It seems
Yeah.
completely. And when I say
Yeah.
completely, I really mean completely. It seems 100% counterintuitive, counterproductive. I mean, I've had people, in my past, from my North Carolina days, like actually be upset with me because they see me meditating and they think that I'm wasting my time. They think that I'm supposed to be handling business or doing this or doing
Because
that.
it's sitting and you're doing nothing, and it's interesting you bring that up because it reminds me of it's like meditation in that sense is an act of rebellion. It is a form of liberation because it's like it's a form of resistance because we live in a society where everything is like go go go, do, be productive, and your worth is tied to what you produce. Excuse me. So then when you're sitting and you're appearing to be doing nothing, then it's almost like, well, you're not producing, you're not, so you must not be you worthless. But the funny thing about that is just like that's the biggest thing. Like when I first learned meditation in my lineage of mindfulness, we call it mindfulness practice. It is a lot of it is you learn to respond and not react. So when you're sitting in meditation, you get urges to do things while you're sitting. Like you get because you're so used to like going, and then you live in a society that's always telling you have to be doing something. So you'll literally be sitting in meditation and feel like, oh, I need to check my phone. Oh, I need to get up. Oh, I need to shift. I need to shift my position. Oh, I need to go. Let me go check the food. Let me go check, whatever. And you get these urges to like, you get these thoughts that become urges and you immediately act on them, which we call that, reacting versus being mindful and paying attention to what your urges are and then not acting on them, but sitting in that, and then that's when if you start to do that, then you start to notice things about yourself. Like that's what they call it, mindfulness practice. And it goes back to what you were saying about this whole myth of meditation being something that the goal is to not think. I tell people all the time when I teach meditation, that's not the goal of meditation because we're conscious beings. We're having a consciousness means that you're thinking. So you're not gonna ever not think. The moment you stop thinking, you're dead. Like your consciousness is left. You know what I'm saying? The whole point of meditation is to be aware of what you're thinking, being present to what you're thinking. Because you'd be surprised the mental notes, the mental loops that play in our heads that we're not even mindful of, that we're not even aware of because we're not present to them. So that's why I tell people, like, if your goal is to not think, you're not gonna want to meditate because you're gonna be frustrated. You're gonna think like you're gonna feel like, oh, I'm thinking I'm doing it wrong. I have things going on in my head. I'm doing it wrong. It's like, no. The point is to come to a certain level of stillness to where now you're present to what you're thinking, you're present to what you're feeling and what your body is doing, you know. So yeah, that's that's the thing. I do want to say though, this I wanted to go till 10 o'clock. We're a bit past 10, and I know I got to get to bed. You got to go to work in the morning, and we got to put the baby down. So I think I want to do another live where we talk specifically about meditation, because this conversation opened up a whole nother avenue. But before I end the live, tell people where to find you, like where you at, how can they get a hold of you? If they add you on TikTok, are you gonna be on TikTok?
Yes. Yes, I will be on TikTok. I actually decided a few days ago that I'm getting back on TikTok. Even though, I know it's much different now than it was before the shift. But this definitely is still one of the best platforms out of all the platforms that I use from what I've seen. And it's, I think I heard you say this earlier when I was cooking, but, just the energy of TikTok is a lot more, I don't know if you use the term personable, but
I did, yeah.
For me personally, like, it's a lot more authentic.
Yeah.
More like it's easier to weed through the BS. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, it's just a certain energy that TikTok has, and of course, we know what was going on a few years ago, with everybody connecting more and more around the world, and being able to actually speak more freely. So, even though that's shifted some, I feel like it's still very much present, even though it's a little different now. But yes, I'll be on TikTok, so definitely add me on TikTok if you want to know with me. My website is metaphysics.com. I do spell it a little differently. So it is METAFIZZIX. So once again, METAFIZZIX. Metaphysics.com. So you can find my services on there, my classes on there, my meditation classes on there. It's called the Shaman Hands Method. And this is something that I've been practicing for 18 plus years now. And just continue to find it and develop it. But before we get out of here, I do want to say one thing, because one of the most important things that I think is vital for people to understand, and this goes right back into what I was saying earlier about addressing this myth or this concept that a lot of these things that we associate meditation with lead us to thinking that it is a very pointless activity or a pointless thing to do, which is a very logical conclusion to have when you think about all of the things that it's associated with. One of the biggest reasons why people don't see how vital it is because people already are coming into the conversation not understanding how this structure around us works, this 3D structure that we live in. We don't understand how it works. We don't realize that it is all, like, literally everything around you in the physical realm is based on your previous thinking. So we are constantly living inside of this residual. The very experiences that you have in this 3D reality, the 3D reality that you're experiencing is a residual of the past. So literally, you're actually living in the past. So the better you understand how this thing works, the more you'll realize, oh, meditation is how I escape the 3D realm so that I can change it. Because you change it with your thoughts, and the only way that you can tune in to your thoughts in the way that you can actually shift your thinking is through meditation. So you're actually, by getting still and going into a meditative state, you're actually escaping all of the shit that you're trying to escape by doing the things out here that ain't working.
Right.
So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, and we'll definitely designate a whole TikTok to the topic of meditation, because I feel like as we're talking more about what to expect in the future of 2026, we should also talk about the tools and things that people are going to need. And meditation is one. So yeah, with that being said, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for staying up this late. I actually had planned to kind of hop off at I usually do about 8 to 10 for the lives. Cause y'all, I'm old and I'm not a nighttime witch. Like I'm a daytime witch. So I'm my best in the mornings. But you know, TikTok, I may do some afternoon TikToks. But you know, most people do what I do, which y'all be in bed scrolling, you know, watching people's lives. I'm pretty sure a lot of you will watch it from your beds. So this is usually the more ideal time to do a live. But you know, Shaman Hands, thank you for joining. We're definitely going to have some more conversations around the topic of meditation. Everybody for those of you who missed the rest of the live, I will be posting it on my YouTube channel. So yes, I have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, you can type in Be the Vibe, or you can type in Chrysalis Sun. I have a ton of content. You can find me through the Chrysalis Sun search bar. With that being said, you guys have a really good night. If you need anything, questions, whatever, reach out to me. I know some of you DM me. Sometimes I miss DMs here on TikTok because they get filtered. So it's best if you just either reach out to me. I have in my bio, I have a whole there's a link in my bio that has a contact form, or you guys can email me or reach out directly to me. It also has my website if you want to hit me up through that route. So reaching out to me directly off of this app, you're more likely to get a response. But you can try to DM me. I try to check them, but I do miss them sometimes. So, but if you have any questions about meditation, about ancestor veneration, about your spiritual court, any classes I'm having, whatever, or you just have general questions about spirituality, I try to respond. Y'all, I actually, as much as it be crazy stuff that be happening on TikTok between creators, like the creators are a little weird on here, but y'all as an audience, like I've had really pleasant experiences with y'all. Like some of the people I've gotten to know off this app, y'all have been really, really great people. So I actually enjoy interacting with you guys outside of the content. So I'm responsive when I get messages from people off TikTok as much as I'm able to. So that being said, have a good night. Y'all be safe. Sean, thanks for joining. And I'll catch you guys next time.